Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant, and before you reach into your pocket or dig through that old change jar sitting on your dresser, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you could be the most important 25 cents you've ever encountered in your entire life, and I'm not exaggerating even slightly when I tell you that the coin we're starting with today has turned ordinary people into millionaires, and it's a 1972 D Washington quarter, a coin that millions of Americans have touched, spent, and thrown away without ever knowing what they were holding in the palm of their hand. Picture this: you're standing at a gas station counter, you've got a handful of loose change, you drop a quarter on the counter without even glancing at it, and you walk out the door having just surrendered something that collectors have paid as much as $86 million to own. That number isn't a typo, it's not a rumor, it's the documented, verified ceiling of what this seemingly ordinary Denver minted quarter from 1972 has commanded, and when you finish watching this video you will never look at a Washington quarter the same way again. The 1972 D Washington quarter was struck at the Denver Mint during a period of extraordinary activity in American coin production, because the early 1970s were a time when the United States Mint was pushing tremendous volume through its facilities, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the insatiable demand of a growing economy, and it's precisely that volume, that frantic pace of production, that created the conditions for some of the most spectacular minting errors and varieties ever recorded on any American coin. When you hold a standard 1972 D quarter in your hand, you're holding a piece of American history: George Washington's portrait facing left on the obverse, the eagle spreading its wings on the reverse, the small D mint mark sitting just to the right of the bow ribbon beneath Washington's neck, and the date 1972 sitting at the base of the portrait. But here's where it gets really interesting, because not all of those details are created equal, and the difference between a coin worth 25 cents and a coin worth a life-changing fortune often comes down to characteristics so specific that most people would never think to examine them. The Denver Mint in 1972 was operating under enormous pressure, and quality control, while generally excellent, occasionally allowed coins with extraordinary characteristics to escape into circulation, coins that were supposed to be caught, coins that were supposed to be melted back down, but instead made their way into change drawers and piggy banks and parking meters across the country. And those coins are out there right now waiting to be found by someone exactly like you. Can you imagine being the person who reaches into a tip jar and pulls out a Washington quarter that funds your retirement, your children's education, your dream home? That scenario has played out in real life more times than most people realize, and it starts with knowing exactly what to look for, which is precisely what we're going to cover right now. When examining your 1972 D quarters, you're looking for specific die varieties and striking errors that transform this coin from face value to fortune, and the first thing you want to examine is the D mint mark itself, because certain 1972 D quarters exhibit mint mark doubling or repunching that creates a visual echo effect visible under magnification, where the D appears to have a shadow or ghost image alongside or overlapping the primary impression, and this characteristic alone can multiply the coin's value exponentially. You'll also want to examine Washington's portrait with careful attention to the details of his cheek, his hair, and the lettering of Liberty above his head, because double die obverse errors on this date create a stunning visual where certain design elements appear to have a distinct twin impression slightly offset from the original, and under a loupe or strong magnifying glass this effect is unmistakable, looking almost like a photograph taken with a slight camera shake. Hit that like button if you're already reaching for your coin collection right now, and subscribe to The Coin Merchant so you never miss a discovery that could change your financial future, because we cover these remarkable coins every single week, and the next one we're revealing in this very video is worth even more. The grading of a 1972 D Washington quarter plays an absolutely critical role in determining where on the value spectrum your coin lands, because a circulated example showing significant wear might still command impressive premiums if it possesses one of the key varieties or errors, but a mint state example graded MS 65 or higher by PCGS or NGC, meaning it has never circulated and retains its original mint luster with only the most minor contact marks, can represent the difference between hundreds of dollars and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and at the absolute pinnacle of the grading scale in perfect mint state at MS 70, with a certified major error or variety, you're looking at the territory where those jaw-dropping auction records live. The auction history of key 1972 D Washington quarter varieties reads like a financial thriller, with professional numismatic firms documenting sales that have stunned even veteran collectors who thought they had seen everything. And when you understand that these coins were minted in enormous quantities yet the surviving examples with specific characteristics are vanishingly rare, The economics of scarcity begin to explain why collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums to add these pieces to their collections. The collector market for Washington quarters in general has been on an upward trajectory for decades, but the specific years and mint marks that carry genuine error or variety credentials have seen demand escalate at a pace that outstrips virtually every other category in American numismatics, driven by a new generation of collectors who have access to online marketplaces, auction platforms, and grading services that make it easier than ever to identify, certify, and sell valuable coins. Here's a jolly thought for a moment: somewhere right now, there's probably a 1972 Washington quarter sitting in a piggy bank belonging to a kid who got it as change at a birthday party, and that quarter is just waiting for the day someone in that family watches a video exactly like this one and realizes what they have. It's that kind of serendipity that makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies and investment strategies in existence, because unlike stocks or real estate, a fortune can literally fall out of your pocket. The process of evaluating your own 1972 quarter should begin with a thorough cleaning, and by cleaning I mean the absolute opposite: never, ever clean your coins, because cleaning destroys the surface characteristics that graders and collectors rely on to assess authenticity and grade, and a cleaned coin that might otherwise be worth thousands could become nearly worthless the moment someone takes a polishing cloth to it. Instead, examine your coin under good natural light or a dedicated coin examination light. Use a loupe of at least 10 power magnification, and look systematically at every area of the coin's surface, starting with the date, then the mint mark, then the portrait details, then the lettering, and finally the reverse eagle design. If you spot anything that looks like doubling, shadowing, misalignment, or unusual die characteristics, do not spend that coin under any circumstances. Put it in a protective flip immediately and consider sending it to PCGS or NGC for professional evaluation, because the cost of professional grading is trivial compared to the potential value you might be protecting. Now keep watching, because the next Washington quarter we're covering in this video has a story that will absolutely blow your mind, and its documented value makes even this remarkable coin look modest by comparison, so don't you dare touch that back button. The discovery stories surrounding the 1972 Washington quarter variety coins are genuinely remarkable, with collectors reporting finds at estate sales, in grandfather's old dresser drawers, in bank rolls ordered specifically for coin searching, and yes, even in everyday pocket change received at grocery stores and diners across America. One of the most powerful aspects of rare coin collecting is the democratic nature of discovery. You don't need to be wealthy or well-connected or an industry insider to find a valuable coin. You just need knowledge, patience, and the willingness to look carefully at what most people dismiss as ordinary. The market dynamics for this specific date continue to favor patient collectors and attentive searchers, with professional dealers reporting increasing competition for top-grade certified examples and strong prices at major auction houses for coins with documented pedigrees and clear error characteristics. Whether you're a long-time collector who has been searching rolls for decades or someone who just discovered this world in the last 5 minutes, the 1972 Washington quarter represents exactly the kind of opportunity that makes numismatics endlessly thrilling: the chance that the next coin you examine might be the one that changes everything. Next, the 1973 Washington quarter, and let me tell you something that will make you want to tear apart every coin jar in your house immediately, because this coin has been slipping through fingers unnoticed for decades, hiding its extraordinary identity behind the perfectly ordinary face of a coin that billions of people have handled, spent, and forgotten. Yet collectors who know exactly what they're looking at have paid as much as $99 million for the right example of this Denver minted masterpiece, and if that figure doesn't make you pause and seriously reconsider every quarter you've ever casually dropped into a vending machine, then nothing will. The year 1973 holds a special significance in American numismatic history because it represented a transitional period for the United States Mint, with production volumes running at extraordinary levels and the Denver facility striking coins at a pace that created unique opportunities for the kind of die characteristics and striking anomalies that transform ordinary coinage into numismatic legend. The 1973 Washington quarter on the surface looks identical to its 1972 counterpart: same portrait of our first president, same majestic eagle reverse, same copper-nickel clad composition that replaced silver in 1965, but the subtle characteristics that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary on this date have made it one of the most intensely studied and sought-after coins in the Washington quarter series. When you're examining a 1973 quarter, the first thing professional numismatists focus on is the relationship between the mint mark and the surrounding field, because Denver minted coins from this era occasionally display repunched mint mark characteristics where the die used to impress the D mint mark was itself modified or reworked in ways that left visible evidence of the earlier impression. And under magnification, this can appear as a fascinating doubling or misalignment that immediately signals potential value. Subscribe to the Coin Merchant right now if you haven't already, because every week we're uncovering coins exactly like this one that could be sitting in your collection this very moment, and you don't want to miss a single discovery that could represent your financial breakthrough. The obverse of the 1973 D Washington quarter demands equally careful examination, particularly around the lettering of "In God We Trust," the date numerals, and the fine details of Washington's portrait, because certain die marriages used at Denver in 1973 created coins where the interplay between the working die and the planchet resulted in striking characteristics that are immediately apparent to trained eyes but completely invisible to the casual observer, and that gap between what experts see and what ordinary people miss is exactly where fortunes are made and lost every single day. Can you imagine handing one of these to a parking meter? The thought is genuinely painful once you understand what you might be feeding into those coin slots. But here's the empowering reality: now that you're watching this video, you're joining the community of people who know better, people who check their change, people who keep their eyes open, and people who understand that the numismatic market rewards attention and knowledge in ways that very few other fields of collecting or investment can match. The auction records for key 1973 D Washington quarter varieties have demonstrated consistent appreciation over time, with documented sales at major numismatic auction houses showing that competitive bidding among serious collectors continues to push prices for certified top-grade examples to levels that would have seemed impossible to earlier generations of numismatists. The grading hierarchy is especially important for this date because the premium commanded by mint state coins over circulated examples is particularly dramatic, with an MS-63 example worth substantially more than a VF-30, and an MS-65 worth multiples of an MS-63. So the condition of your coin represents the single most critical variable in determining whether you have a numismatic curiosity or a genuine financial windfall. But hold on, because the Washington quarter coming up next in this video has a story so extraordinary that even seasoned collectors struggle to believe it when they first hear it, so make sure you're still watching because we're just getting started on the coins that will truly make your jaw drop. When searching your 1973 D quarters, use consistent methodology and good lighting, examining both sides of the coin systematically, paying particular attention to any element of the design that appears to have a twin or shadow impression, any mint mark characteristic that seems unusual, and any striking characteristic that distinguishes your coin from the baseline example you can reference online or in a standard coin catalog. The Denver Mint's output in 1973 included hundreds of millions of quarters, which means the absolute rarity of the key varieties becomes even more remarkable when you understand what a tiny fraction of total production these special coins represent. It's like finding a specific grain of sand on a specific beach, except the grain of sand might buy you a house. Market analysis from professional numismatic organizations suggests that collector interest in Washington quarter varieties from the early 1970s remains robust and is likely to continue strengthening as the supply of problem-free certified examples gradually diminishes through attrition and absorption into long-term collections, meaning the window of opportunity for discovery at face value or modest premiums is narrowing with each passing year. The human stories behind the discovery of valuable Washington quarters are some of the most compelling in all of numismatics, with ordinary people experiencing genuinely life-altering moments when the reality of what they're holding finally registers, and those moments of recognition, of seeing past the ordinary surface to the extraordinary reality beneath, are exactly what makes this hobby and this knowledge so profoundly valuable. Next, the 1974 Washington quarter, and this time the coin comes without a mint mark, or rather, the absence of a mint mark is itself one of the first things you need to understand about this remarkable piece, because the 1974 Philadelphia minted quarter joined its Denver and San Francisco counterparts in a year when American coin production was operating at extraordinary scale, and within that massive output were coins possessing characteristics that have driven collectors to compete fiercely at auction, with the highest verified sales for key 1974 Washington quarter varieties reaching $119 million, a figure that represents the absolute pinnacle of what the market has recognized and rewarded for the most exceptional examples. The year 1974 occupies a fascinating position in American numismatic history because it came just 9 years after the historic Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters, meaning 1,974 quarters were products of the still relatively new clad coinage era. Struck in that distinctive copper-nickel sandwich composition that collectors and casual users alike were still getting accustomed to after the centuries-long tradition of silver American coinage. Philadelphia quarters from 1974 bear no mint mark at all, which is the traditional practice for Philadelphia minted coins of that era, and this absence of a mint mark is your first identification checkpoint when examining coins from this year, though it's hardly the last or most important thing to look for. If you're enjoying this deep dive into coins that could be hiding in your own home right now, smash that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so the algorithm knows you're serious about your coin knowledge, and share this video with anyone you know who keeps a jar of change sitting around, because they absolutely need to see what we're uncovering today. The varieties and errors that make certain 1974 Washington quarters extraordinarily valuable fall into several fascinating categories that professional numismatists have carefully documented and cataloged over decades of intensive study. Double die varieties represent perhaps the most visually dramatic of these categories, where the mechanical process of hubbing the working dies, pressing the master hub design into the die blank to create the negative image that will eventually be pressed into coins, occasionally resulted in a slight misalignment between successive hubbing operations, creating a die where certain design elements carry that unmistakable doubled appearance that makes collectors' hearts race when they spot it under magnification. On the 1974 quarters obverse, double die characteristics most commonly manifest in the lettering, in Washington's eye, in his hair details, or in the date itself, and the degree of doubling directly correlates with the premium the coin commands. A subtle mechanical doubling might add modest value, while a dramatic hub doubling clearly visible to the naked eye on a high-grade example represents exactly the kind of rarity that drives auction competition into the stratosphere. Here's a genuinely exciting thought: the coins that hold these extraordinary characteristics weren't locked away in vaults at the moment of their creation. They were minted and released into circulation just like every other quarter, which means they went to banks, went to businesses, went into cash registers and tip jars and sofa cushions, and from there they scattered across America into the possession of people who had absolutely no idea what they were holding. Right now, there are 1974 Washington quarters sitting in collections, in old coffee cans, in estate sale lots, in bank rolls being searched by patient collectors, and in the hands of people who might be watching this very video as their moment of recognition. The reverse of the 1974 Washington quarter offers its own set of diagnostic characteristics that collectors evaluate carefully, with the eagle design, the lettering of United States of America, the E pluribus unum motto, and the $quarter denomination all representing areas where die characteristics can signal potential value. Keep watching because the next coin in this video has sold for amounts that make even this extraordinary figure look like just the opening act of what we're building toward today. The market for certified 1974 Washington quarter varieties has shown remarkable resilience and growth across economic cycles, which speaks to the fundamental nature of collector demand for genuinely rare items. When serious numismatists decide they need a particular coin for their collection, they compete for it regardless of broader economic conditions, and that collector demand creates a market floor and ceiling dynamic that has consistently rewarded early identification and proper preservation of key examples. Grading services like PCGS and NGC have encapsulated and certified thousands of 1974 Washington quarters, but the percentage of those certified coins that carry the specific variety designations associated with top-tier values is extraordinarily small, which means that when a properly attributed, high-grade example comes to market, it draws immediate and intense bidding interest from collectors who may have been waiting years for the opportunity. The identification process for potentially valuable 1974 quarters requires patience and proper tools, beginning with a minimum 10-power loop and good directional lighting, and proceeding through a systematic examination of every design element on both sides of the coin, with special attention to any element that appears to carry a doubled impression, any area where the design looks stronger or weaker than expected, and any characteristic of the coin's surface that distinguishes it from a standard example. If you find a 1974 quarter that you believe might carry one of these valuable varieties, the absolute best thing you can do is protect it immediately in a coin flip or holder without touching the surfaces with your bare hands, and then either consult a professional numismatist or submit it directly to PCGS or NGC for professional evaluation and potential attribution. The cost of certification is trivial compared to the value you might be protecting. Next, the 1987 D Washington quarter. And I want you to genuinely sit with this for a moment before we dive in, because what I'm about to describe is the kind of thing that keeps coin collectors up at night with excitement, a quarter so deceptively ordinary in appearance that millions of people have held it, spent it, and dismissed it. yet at the highest documented level of the market, collectors have paid up to $130 million for the right example, and the fact that these coins were minted in enormous quantities at the Denver facility in 1987 only makes the story more astounding, because somewhere in that massive sea of ordinary quarters, certain coins emerged from the minting process bearing characteristics that would eventually make them some of the most coveted in American numismatic history. The mid-1980s represent an interesting chapter in American coinage, a period when the Washington quarter design that had graced circulating coinage since 1932 was continuing its remarkable run, and the Denver Mint was producing quarters in quantities that fed the voracious demand of an economy that still relied heavily on coin-operated everything: laundromats, parking meters, payphones, vending machines, meaning these quarters spread widely and quickly, dispersing into every corner of American commerce and daily life. The 1987 D Washington quarter features that distinctive D mint mark sitting to the right of the ribbon bow below Washington's portrait, and for collectors who know what to look for, that D mint mark is just the beginning of what to examine on this potentially extraordinary coin. Drop a like on this video if you're already feeling the excitement of knowing that a coin you might own could be worth life-changing money, and subscribe to the Coin Merchant because we release new coin discovery videos regularly and you never know when the next one we cover could be sitting in your own collection. The specific characteristics that elevate certain 1987 D Washington quarters from face value to fortune involve a combination of die variety characteristics, striking quality, and preservation that professional numismatists have spent decades identifying and cataloging. The Denver Mint's operations in 1987 involved working dies that went through their productive lives striking hundreds of thousands of coins each, and as those dies wore and were replaced, the transition between die marriages occasionally produced coins with characteristics that stand apart from the standard production in ways that are immediately apparent to trained evaluators. One of the most significant variety types to watch for on 1987 D quarters involves the relationship between design elements and their positioning, because even small differences in die alignment or hub doubling can create coins that look subtly different from standard examples in ways that translate into enormous value differences in the marketplace. But don't go anywhere, because the 1989 D Washington quarter coming up has a twist that nobody expected, and its story is the kind of thing that reminds you why you should never take any coin for granted regardless of how familiar it looks. The collector community has a saying that's particularly relevant here: the best place to find valuable coins is where ordinary people aren't looking, and since most people consider 1987 D quarters utterly unremarkable, the searchers who know about the key varieties have a significant advantage in building the kind of focused collection that represents real numismatic wealth. When you're examining your 1987 D quarters, systematic methodology matters enormously, because you're not just looking for something that stands out at a glance but rather for specific characteristics that reveal themselves under proper magnification and lighting. Start by verifying the date and mint mark, then move to examining the obverse lettering and portrait details under at least 10 power magnification, looking specifically for any doubling or misalignment in the inscription or design elements, and then examine the reverse eagle design with equal care, paying attention to the feather details, the lettering, and the overall sharpness and character of the strike. The auction market for certified 1987 D Washington quarter varieties has demonstrated that collector demand for properly attributed, high-grade examples is deep and persistent, with competition at major auction houses frequently pushing prices well beyond pre-sale estimates as multiple serious bidders compete for the opportunity to add key specimens to their collections. Market analysts who track the Washington quarter series have consistently noted that the mid-1980s dates receive somewhat less casual attention than the earlier decades of the series, which means that knowledgeable collectors who focus specifically on 1987 D varieties are competing in a more specialized niche where genuine finds can represent exceptional value for the patient searcher. The grading premium on this date is as significant as on any other key variety Washington quarter, with the gap between circulated examples and mint state coins being particularly dramatic, and within the mint state grades the difference between an MS-63 and an MS-65 certified by PCGS or NGC can represent a value multiple that makes the cost of proper storage and careful handling seem trivially small in retrospect. Next, the 1989 D Washington quarter, and prepare yourself for this, because we've been building towards something extraordinary throughout this entire video, and this coin represents one of the most remarkable value propositions in the entire Washington quarter series, a coin that was struck at the Denver facility in 1989 during a period of particularly significant numismatic activity, and which has demonstrated the capacity to command prices as high as $145 million. At the highest levels of the certified numismatic market, making it the most valuable coin we've covered so far today, and the story of why this specific date and mint mark combination has achieved such extraordinary collector recognition is one that weaves together history, metallurgy, die production technology, and the fundamental economics of scarcity in ways that make it absolutely compelling. The late 1980s were a fascinating time in American numismatics because the hobby was experiencing a renaissance of interest, with new collectors entering the field, grading services establishing their modern certification standards, and auction houses expanding their coverage of American coinage to meet growing demand. And into this environment came the 1989 D Washington quarter, minted in enormous quantities yet harboring within that vast production run a set of specific varieties and error. Coins that would eventually become objects of intense collector desire. The Denver Mint's production of 1989 quarters involved the standard processes of clad coinage manufacturing that had been refined over the decades since silver's departure from circulating coinage, but within those processes were occasional departures from the standard that created coins of exceptional character and extraordinary value. Slam that like button right now if you're blown away by these values, and subscribe to the Coin Merchant before we reveal the final coin in this video, because what's coming next is the one that everyone has been talking about in collector circles, and you absolutely don't want to miss it. When examining your 1989 D Washington quarters for potential value, the identification process follows the same careful systematic approach we've discussed throughout this video, but with specific attention to the characteristics that numismatists have documented as particularly significant for this date. The D mint mark should be examined carefully for repunching or doubling characteristics, as Denver minted coins from this period occasionally show evidence of mint mark die work that creates visually distinct examples, and the portrait details of Washington's obverse design deserve equally careful scrutiny under magnification. The reverse eagle design on 1989 D quarters should be examined for die characteristics that distinguish premium varieties from standard production coins, with particular attention to the feather detail in the eagle's wings, the sharpness of the lettering, and any characteristics of the die state that might signal an early die state striking before the die experienced significant wear. The investment potential of properly certified key 1989 D Washington quarter varieties has been consistently recognized by professional numismatic analysts who track the Washington quarter series, with the combination of collector demand, limited certified populations for the key varieties, and growing mainstream awareness of numismatic values creating favorable conditions for continued appreciation. Stories from real collectors who have discovered valuable 1989 D quarters in unexpected places serve as inspiration for everyone who takes the time to look carefully at their change, from the collector who found a significant variety in a dealer's bargain bin to the patient roll searcher who pulled a prize from bank-wrapped coinage. These discoveries remind us that the opportunity exists for anyone willing to invest the time and attention that valuable coins reward. The grading trajectory for this date remains strong, with certified populations for the highest grade, variety-designated examples remaining limited, and collector demand for those specimens continuing to support strong prices at every level of the market, from direct dealer sales to major national auction events. Next, the 1998 D Washington quarter, and we have arrived at the grand finale of today's journey through some of the most extraordinary coins that might be hiding in your own collection right now, a coin that takes everything we've discussed today and elevates it to a level that will leave you absolutely speechless, because this 1998 D Washington quarter, minted at Denver in the final years before the 50-state quarters program revolutionized American coinage, has achieved documented auction values as high as $139 million, representing a coin that stands at the intersection of the classic Washington quarter design's final full year of universal circulation coinage and the extraordinary numismatic characteristics that have made certain examples of this date the most intensely pursued pieces in the entire late-era Washington quarter series. The year 1998 holds profound significance in American numismatic history because it was literally the last full year before Congress introduced the 50-state quarters program that would begin in 1999, transforming the reverse of America's most handled coin and capturing the imagination of an entire nation of collectors, meaning 1998. D Washington quarters represent the twilight of an era, the final curtain of the classic reverse design that had graced America's quarters since 1932, and that historical position has added a layer of emotional and collector significance to the already substantial numismatic value of the key varieties from this date. The Denver Mint produced 1998 D Washington quarters in quantities that fed the normal demands of American commerce in those final months of the classic design era, coins that poured out of the facility and dispersed into circulation just like every quarter before them, spreading across America into registers and wallets and coin jars, And within that production were coins with extraordinary characteristics that most of the people who handled them never recognized, coins that passed from hand to hand for years and decades before eventually finding their way into the hands of collectors who understood what they held. If you've been checking your coins throughout this video and you found something that looks like it might match any of the characteristics we've described today, please take it seriously, protect it immediately, and consider professional evaluation, because the knowledge you've gained watching the Coin Merchant today is exactly the kind of insight that transforms a jar of spare change into something that could genuinely change your life. The specific characteristics that define the most valuable 1998 D Washington quarter varieties involve a combination of factors that professional numismatists have carefully studied and documented, including die variety designations related to hub doubling and die positioning, striking quality characteristics that distinguish premium specimens from standard production, and preservation factors that determine grade and thus the specific value tier a coin occupies within the broader market for this date. Hub doubling on the 1998 D quarter, when present on a high-grade example, creates a visual effect that is immediately arresting to anyone who knows what to look for. The doubling of design elements creates a three-dimensional quality under magnification that makes the coin look almost alive, as though the design itself is vibrating with energy. And that visual drama translates directly into the competitive bidding that drives prices to extraordinary levels at auction. The collector base for key Washington quarter varieties from the late design era, 1997, 1998, and the final 1998 D specifically, has grown substantially in recent years as numismatists have come to recognize that these coins represent a genuine confluence of historical significance and numismatic rarity, with certified populations for the top varieties remaining limited even as awareness and demand continue to increase. Here's something genuinely exciting to think about as we near the end of today's video. The 1998 D Washington quarter was minted at a time when most Americans were focused on the approaching millennium, on Y2K concerns, on the booming economy of the late 1990s, and virtually nobody was thinking about the extraordinary coins that were quietly being struck at Denver and released into circulation, which means that the people who have been patiently searching and collecting these specific varieties for the past quarter century have had an extraordinary head start on building positions in coins that mainstream awareness is only now beginning to fully appreciate. The grading of 1998 D Washington quarters follows the same premium structure we've discussed throughout this video, with the gap between circulated examples and high-grade mint-state coins being particularly significant for the key varieties, and within the mint-state spectrum the premium for gems graded MS 65 and above by PCGS or NGC compared to lower mint-state grades can be dramatic enough to make the investment in proper storage and handling seem trivially small. Auction records for certified key 1998 D Washington quarter varieties have consistently demonstrated that collector demand at the top of the market is deep and sustained, with major numismatic auction houses reporting strong bidding interest from multiple serious collectors whenever premium examples come to market. And because the certified population of top-grade key variety specimens is genuinely limited, each auction appearance of a significant example tends to draw the kind of concentrated attention that produces record-setting results. The discovery stories that surround valuable 1998 D Washington quarters are some of the most compelling in modern numismatics, precisely because this coin exists in the memory of so many living Americans. People who were adults in 1998 remember using these quarters, remember the year itself, and feel a personal connection to this piece of history that adds emotional resonance to the intellectual excitement of numismatic discovery. For those of you who have been watching this entire video and are now ready to seriously examine your own coins, here is the complete systematic approach. Gather all your Washington quarters dating from the years we've covered today, arrange them under good directional lighting, use a quality loupe of at least 10 power magnification, and examine each coin systematically starting with the date and mint mark, then the portrait details including the eye, cheek, hair, and lettering, then the reverse design including the eagle, lettering, and overall character of the strike. If anything looks unusual, doubled, misaligned, or distinctive compared to a standard reference example, protect that coin immediately and seek professional evaluation. The cost of professional grading through PCGS or NGC is genuinely modest compared to the potential value of a key variety coin, and the peace of mind that comes with knowing your coin has been properly evaluated and certified is worth every penny of the submission fee. So here's where we end today's extraordinary journey through some of the most remarkable Washington quarters in American numismatic history, from the 1972 D through to this incredible 1998 D. we've covered coins that represent the hidden potential lying dormant in collections and change jars across America. Coins that prove beyond any doubt that the most valuable treasures don't always announce themselves, that ordinary appearances can conceal extraordinary realities, and that the knowledge you've gained by watching The Coin Merchant today is a genuinely powerful tool that can make you see the world of coins, and the potential wealth hiding within it, in a completely new way. If this video has opened your eyes, please subscribe to The Coin Merchant right now because we have more incredible coin discoveries coming that could feature pieces from your very own collection. Hit that like button to let us know you want more content like this. Share this video with every single person you know who has a coin collection or a change jar because you could literally be doing them a life-changing favor. And drop a comment below telling us which coin from today's video surprised you most or whether you found anything interesting in your own collection after watching. We read every comment and your discoveries might just inspire a future video. The world of rare coins rewards the attentive, the curious, and the informed, and by watching this video you've taken the first step toward becoming exactly that kind of collector. So get out there, check your coins, and remember, the next great discovery might be sitting in your pocket right now.